Thank you. Let us deal with a verse, Genesis 3 verse 8, which uncovers the buried history of how humanity continuously is being deceived to partner and work with a spirit that is not the real unknowable creator. In this verse, in Genesis 3 verse 8, we discover Yahweh Elohim, who is described as a physically walking being in the garden searching for Adam and Eve. That alone is not symbolic appearance, but is a real physical manifestation. And billions of people today worship this being. This God had feet, and this Bible verse is the one that they ignore. It's a physical deity. Unless you want to worship a physical deity, the choice is all yours. As we salute our flag, I am your manager to be preacher Rabbi Elem Mjakanya, saying we have our own inherent Afro-Salvation mystic power. You can enroll and study this and many other topics, many other subjects in our Bantu Melanin University. You can use this email address to enroll. You can also visit our website. We want to strip away the theological gymnastics and trickery and confront the Hebrew and its text in Genesis 3 verse 8 with a raw agent of honesty. So when you read in English, and they heard the sound of Yahweh God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, you must now start to question and find the meaning of the Hebrew words, major Hebrew words. So we've got the Hebrew word mitalhek, meaning walking. And this verb is the participle of another one, halak, to go or to go for a walk. The meaning of hith patel stem often implies reflexive, iterative, or deliberate action. Here, it strongly suggests physical locomotion. It depicts God moving himself about, traversing the garden space within time. We shall be showing the time when this was happening. This is not a vision. This is not a voice from heaven or a spiritual presence. His is the actual arrival of a physical being. This God had feet, and this Bible verse they never explain to us. The Adam and Eve issue is that they also hide amongst the trees, specifically when they hear God walk and his walk in the garden. Hiding can only make sense if the being approaching has a physical presence that can be evaded visually and spatially. An omnipresent, formless spirit cannot be walked away from or be hidden from behind a tree. So this hiding is hiding from the face and from the presence, and is amongst the tree. And God could not locate them and had to call them out and to find where they are, which is Wayikra Yahweh Elohim El Ha-Adam. And God called to the men, where are you? This confirms that there was a need for confirmation and for discovery where these two people were hiding. It doesn't simply mean that this is spiritual. This is real. It was happening in the physical sense. So Yahweh is a physical being. God had feet. And this is the Bible verse that they ignore and do not want to explain. So what time? We said we shall indicate time. It was during the cool of the day. Leruya Hayom. It was when it was cooling down from the heat. So God didn't want to walk when a meteorological situation of the day was such that he would feel the heat. So when it says ruach, it's breeze, it's breath, it's wind, of course it's also spirit. So Yahweh is a being who is sensitive to heat. It is very clear that this specific time of the day, known for its tangible physical sensation, coolness, was good for God's presence now to be seen in the garden. Not everywhere. He is there in the garden at a specific time, moving in a way that created audible sound that Adam and Eve had to run away and hide. He also called out with a voice. Hakol. The voice was heard. And it was in the garden. Very clear, he's looking for Adam and Eve. So the evidence is very clear from the Hebrew verbs and context, which unambiguously depict a being with physical form capable of audible locomotion, mitha halek, walking with footsteps, being spatially located within the garden Bahagan, being evaded by hiding behind physical objects, trees, grasses, and many other physical objects that were there. His presence is tied to a specific sensory time of the day, Lerua Hayom. This is distinct from the ultimate unknowable real creator who dwells beyond the chasm, who dwells beyond the waters of Nyunyu, who dwells beyond the gods and the ancestors, who dwells beyond our universe. This real creator we are talking about is unknowable, has no name, has never interacted with us. Our ancestors taught that. So Yahweh is a physical being. We shall show more of his physicality. If you read our book Free from God, it will clear all this muddling that has happened. It will also demonstrate that the nameless and noble creator dwells beyond the chasm, dwells beyond the waters of Nyunyu, which is the quantum field of soup or force field. Our ancestors, when they were talking to missionaries, they said he is the remote high God. Wrong explanation, wrong terminology, but good illustration. Because we know from the pyramid text that the real creator is unknown, nameless, before the beginning of names, formless before form was conceived. His essence is potential, not substance. His essence is potential, not substance. You can read pyramid text 477. So Yahweh is not this one. Yahweh is form, can be seen. This is the unavoidable conclusion from the Hebrew text of Genesis 3 verse 8, that Yahweh Elohim is a being possessing a physical body. Then Genesis shatters divine absence. It's a lie to think that God is an invisible spirit, omnipresent and unchanging. Because in Malachi 3:6 we know that he says he does not change. But we have seen him walking in the garden. We have seen him being a presence. And we know that he is also known as a man of war. There are many other verses in the Hebrew Bible that describe God with physical features, including feet, or actions that imply feet, hands, arms, taste, smell. And all have been spiritualized in translation or in homiletics and the preaching and the sermons to preserve the idea in the population that they are worshipping an incorporeal, invisible, and distant deity. That's a lie. A huge deception. As we explore these verses one by one, it will become clear that the verses hold a message that Israel worshipped a physical entity, a physical being, who could become angry, who were jealous, who would fight, who could become tired, who wanted to eat, who wanted sacrifices. So, when you go to Exodus 29 and you read from verse 9 to 11, you are told that they saw the God of Israel and under his feet, or at least a position beneath where his feet would be. This is a direct visual encounter with God. Physical enough that they could describe what they saw. That under his feet there was something like a pavement made of lapis lazuli, as bright blue as the sky. And then they say God did not raise his hand against these leaders of Israel. They saw God and they ate and they drank. They had a direct visual encounter. This was not a miracle, a visual, a dream. This was direct seeing a being, a physical enough for the text to say that they saw him and lived. The phrase suggests a real being, not just abstract presence. His feet, there, clear, straightforward. When you go to Psalms 18 verse 9 in the King James Version, he bowed the heavens and came down. And thick darkness was under his feet. He parted the heavens and came down with dark clouds beneath his feet. Very poetic. This line describes movement from above to below in a physical sense, implying descent. This was a journey that would require feet, a physical body. The image of darkness under his feet is same as that in Genesis 3:8, movement through space, direction, and location. So who do they worship? Who are you worshiping today? A physical being. This is what it means. The God of Israel is a shape-shifting spirit being or an alien shape-shifter. This is what we understand from the verses. They prove that ancient Israel understood their God as a physical presence, a divinity that could be seen, not invisible, not unreachable or incorporeal, but they could see and describe that divinity. Later on, their theologians and teachers and priests and teachers sanitized and reinterpreted these passages to fit a more abstract philosophical model of God. Their God, Yahweh. Especially, this occurred after their exile from Babylon and also when they interacted with the Greeks. So why do they preach a distant, invisible God today? Why have they erased the embodiment and the embodied and the bodies and the physicality of their creator who walked in the garden, who visited Abraham and had lunch with the Hebrews and had lunch with Abraham? That was the real God of Israel. He's a deity. Is not the real unknowable creator. Yahweh is known to have a throne chariot. Ezekiel saw that. Ezekiel rode it. And Yahweh is known as a man of war. And Yahweh is his name. So we have given proof. Clear proof. It starts actually before Genesis 3:8. It starts in Genesis 1:26, where you see the plurality of us. You also see the plurality of us in Genesis 3:22. Man has become like one of us, to know good and evil, lest he put his hands and eat from the tree of life. Let's chase him out of the garden. And also when they were building the Tower of Babel, you've seen, let us go down and confuse their language. So that is not plurality of majesty. It is plurality of a divine council. Adath El, read Psalms 82, where you are told that God sits in the council of other gods and rules with the mighty. You have seen in Genesis 3 verse 8, his walk in the garden. In Deuteronomy 33, 2-3, you see his feet and his actions as embodying power and structure, and your Lord Shabbath with many, many others. This is a machinery of spiritual enslavement, not spiritual freedom. Where you have Jehovah, Yahweh, Adonai, and Yaldabaoth as your God. And we know that Yahweh, Sabaoth, is seen as a two-serpent composite, driving a sun chariot between the moon and the stars in 2nd century BCE. That's when they started to say, oh, this is our God. It's just like Ra, flies in the heavens. By the time Yahweh marched from Sinai, the true current was already dammed. Holy ones became enforcers. Fiery law became chains. What they call revelation became conquest. And your sovereignty gone. But today, we're offering you an opportunity to partner with your ancestral veneration spirituality. To work with Mondoro, Midzimu, Good Mashabi, Namakombege. But you can do this only when you liberate yourself from the knowledge and the workings and the fallacies of Yaldabaoth. It's not easy. That's why we are saying enroll into our Bantu Melanin University. Go to BMU admissions at maarifado.com and learn more of Afro Salvation Mystic Power. For more, subscribe and send us an email. Visit our website. Then we can walk this journey together. Thank you. Stay well, stay cool, be safe. Amen. Amen. Amen.